Hi, this is Special Techniques, and I'm Alex Capshaw-Taylor of Worldknits. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to work short rows. Short rows allow you to add length to an area within your knitted fabric without adding that length to the entire piece. You can use short rows to make a shawl collar, or if you have a large bust, you can add short rows to accommodate your bust. If you're knitting for a baby that wears diapers, you can use short rows to accommodate for those diapers in your pants, which is what I did in Little Man Knits. So the short rows are worked on both the knit side and the purl side, and it's kind of a two-step process. So you're gonna do your wrap and turn, and then I'll show you how to end up picking up all of those wraps so that you don't see them in your finished project. So we're going to just do some random wrap and turns here. And the reason why we wrap our stitch is because if we didn't, when we turned our work, we would end up with a big hole. But by wrapping that stitch, we don't have a hole. So I'm just working towards the other side of my fabric. And we'll do 2 short rows on the knit side and 2 short rows on the purl side. Alright, so we'll go ahead and we'll wrap this stitch. So what you're going to do is move your yarn to the front, move the stitch from your left hand needle to your right hand needle, move the yarn to the back, move that stitch that you just moved back to your left hand needle, and then turn your work. And that's 1 stitch wrapped. And now you're in a position to purl. So now we're going to purl back to the other end, and then I'll show you how to wrap on the purl side. Okay, so we'll go ahead and wrap this stitch. So we're going to move our yarn to the back. We're going to slip the stitch from our left hand needle to our right hand needle. We're going to move the yarn to the front, and we're going to slip that same stitch back to our left hand needle and turn our work. And that's 1 stitch wrapped on the purl side, and now we're ready to knit again. So I'll do 1 more wrap on the knit side, 1 more on the purl side, and then we'll learn how to pick up those wraps. Okay, so I'll go ahead and wrap this stitch here. So again, move your yarn to the front, slip the stitch from your left hand needle to your right hand needle, move the yarn back, and then move that stitch back to your left hand needle and turn your work. And again, you're in a position to purl, and this is that wrapped stitch. Okay, and we'll go ahead and we'll wrap this stitch here. So on the purl side, I'm going to move my yarn to the back. I'm going to slip the stitch from my left hand needle to my right hand needle. I'm going to move the yarn back to the front and slip this stitch from my right hand needle back to my left hand needle and turn my work. And there's another stitch wrapped. And you can kind of see where the stitches have been wrapped because you're going to see a hole. But not to worry, these holes are going to get closed up when we work that wrap together with the wrapped stitch, which is what I'm going to show you how to do next. So we've gotten to our first wrap stitch, and again you can tell because there's a large gap between that stitch and the stitch that follows. And if you look closely, you can see that this stitch has kind of a loop of yarn around it, and that's the wrap that we made. What we need to do to close up this gap is to work this wrap together with the wrapped stitch. So what I'm going to do is insert my right hand needle into the front of that wrap, and also into the stitch on my left hand needle, and I'm going to work both of those together just like you would a knit two together. Okay, and then we'll work to our next one. And again, you can see it because there's a large gap between this stitch and the next stitch on the needle. Here's that wrap, that loop of yarn around the stitch. So I'm going to insert my right hand needle into the front of it and also into the stitch on my left hand needle, and then I'm going to work those two stitches together just like I would a knit two together. So that's how you pick up your wrap on the knit side. And now we have to go and pick up our wraps on over here on the purl side. So I'm going to turn my work and purl back to those wraps. All right, so here I am at the wrap on the purl side, and again I can tell because there's a large gap between this stitch and the next stitch. And if I look closely, it's a little harder to see on the purl side because of those purl bumps, but you can see that the stitch has been wrapped with this loop of yarn here. So to work the purl wrap together with the purl stitch, what I'm going to do is pick up this loop from the back, and I'm going to place it onto my left hand needle, and then I'm going to insert my needle into both the wrap and the wrapped stitch and purl those two together. So let's try that again on the next wrapped stitch. All right, and here we are again at a wrapped stitch. So again on the purl side, what I'm going to do is go into that wrap from the back. I'm going to put it onto my left hand needle, and then I'm going to purl those two stitches together, the wrap and the stitch that was wrapped. And work to the end. Turn my work, and I'm going to show you that we don't have any holes, which is the goal. So what short rows allow you to do again is add length to your project just in a specific area without adding it to the entire thing, and to close up those holes where we worked our short rows, where we turned our work. This has been Special Techniques with Alex Capshaw-Taylor of Worldknits. Happy knitting!